the internationally acclaimed On Stage with Winfred Williams.
At a new time, Saturdays at 8 p.m. on CVM TV.
So much more than entertainment.
It's your girl Tassanchin Crooks, and you're watching CVM. See it happen.
Tonight, a ministry without a regulator? The newly minted Ministry of Water, Environment and Climate Change is already at the center of a governance dispute. Advocates argue the ministry was created without teeth because NEPA, the agency that signs the permits, remains tethered to the office of the Prime Minister. Is this smart administrative design, or is it a dangerous consolidation of power? Then, rebuilding while taxing. The asset tax was on its deathbed. Now it's back. As the government grasps its post-Hurricane Melissa fiscal strategy, we ask, is this a temporary necessity or a permanent shift in our financial future? And later, $152 million raised in a single day. The Sagicor Sigma run proves that even in a constrained fiscal environment, civic capital remains Jamaica's strongest asset. Institutional authority, fiscal credibility, civic solidarity. I'm Jody Ann Quarry, and this is Lead Story. It was a question that was asked before the last general election, and now it returns with renewed urgency. This because the Jamaica Beach Birthright Environmental Movement, JABEM, has issued a release this morning arguing that the newly formed Ministry of Water, Environment and Climate Change was established without supervisory authority over the National Environment and Planning Agency, NEPA. Instead, JABEM states that NEPA remains under the office of the Prime Minister via the Ministry of Economic Growth and Infrastructure Development. They describe this as centralization of regulatory control and a ministry without enforcement teeth. Dr. Devon Taylor is president of JABEM. Dr. Taylor, thank you for joining us inside Lead Story.
Good to be here. Good to be here. Thanks for having me.
Thanks so much for joining us, Dr. Taylor. When we look at the portfolio assignment of the new Ministry of Water, Environment and Climate Change, it has almost everything. The NWC for water, the Forestry Department for our trees, the Met Service for our climate data, and even the Water Resources Authority. It seems every environmental player is at the table except for what could be argued to be the most important one, NEPA. From your perspective, does this specific exclusion of the regulator, while including all the service providers, support your claim that this ministry is a dangerous charade, as you've called it, rather than a genuine environmental powerhouse?
I mean, the core function of a ministry is its power to regulate. And so that regulatory body, which NEPA is, but that the Natural Conservation Resource Authority, right, the NRCA, is a core component of NEPA that gives that ministry the power to regulate the environment, or that ministry is powerless and toothless. So that's why we are calling attention to this issue, because it cannot function without its core regulatory power.
A core regulatory power, one you've argued, resides in NEPA, and one of the pieces of legislation that it oversees, thanks to a 2001 consolidation, the Natural Resources and Conservation Authority Act. But you allege that this structure represents centralization. Are you arguing that the NRCA Act has been violated, or is that it's just a flawed institutional design that has one ministry, the environmental ministry, not having the environmental agency?
Well, it is a flawed design. You cannot have, the department that is, dealing with infrastructure, also the one that is controlling regulation, right? You cannot, it's like having the fox in charge of the hen house, right? That is something that you can't do. You can't have the rat guarding the chicken. With development infrastructurally, and you're saying that this is the same agency that's now going to deal, going to approve that's something.
Dr. Taylor, you're coming in and out as you speak with us, talking to us about the concerns that you and JABM have about this. You're saying you can't have the fox guarding the hen house. What do you mean by that?
Yes, I'm having that difficulty as well hearing you, but I'm saying that fundamental, the institution that is, right, deal with the infrastructural projects, right, be also the institution, the department that is regulating the environment, that is granting these permits. There's a conflict of interest. And that conflict of interest just allows for all kinds of problems, right? Nothing good comes out of that. It is not independent oversight. It's not good governance, right? All of these create fundamental problems in terms of environmental justice.
Let's listen to the other side, though, because Prime Minister Dr. Andrew Holness has placed on record the government's defense of the placement of NEPA under his control. Let's take a listen. All right, so we don't yet have that clip queued up to be able to hear it, but NEPA is a cross-cutting agency. It handles town planning, land use, and environmental permits. By keeping it under the Office of the Prime Minister, the OPM, he argues that they're essentially cutting red tape and ensuring the ease of business for national infrastructure. If NEPA were moved to the Environment Agency, as it appears that you're asking for, wouldn't we just be creating another layer of bureaucracy that slows down the very climate-resilient housing and road projects Jamaica desperately needs post-Hurricane Melissa?
No, that's a false narrative. Have a core body that regulates the environment. Checks and balances are important in any governance, that we can really, rely upon to safeguard the ecological heritage and the resources of the country. Or exists because you will have interference. We have seen that right now. You have Chinese urban engineering company got a permit that is building on the Ryabuna watershed. If this was separated, if you had an independent ministry that is over, looking over the environment of the country, you would not have this, right? You cannot build on a water. Approval was made because NEPA sits, right, in job creation and economic development at the time. We see EIAs that are now, lobbying to build on the Deans Valley watershed in Westmoreland, right? We have to uncouple environmental regulator from the infrastructural development component. They can't be one and the same. You cannot have the wolf guarding the sheep.
Well,
that's just not possible.
That is not the position that Prime Minister Dr. Andrew Holness has taken, saying last year that we needed to decouple. He pretty much said the idea that environmental protection meant not touching the environment at all. And last week, in a meeting before officials, he had this to say about why NEPA remained under the OPM.
So we have with us here a team from NEPA. Now, NEPA is the National Environmental and Planning Agency. Essentially, this is Jamaica's environmental protection agency, but it is also Jamaica's development agency. And that is always the tension between preserving what you have, your natural assets, and adding value to your natural assets through development. And that explains why NEPA resides in the Ministry of Economic Growth and Infrastructure Development. It is critical, central to everything that we do. Notice what I said, development is about adding value, and that is how we take decision about the use of our natural asset. Is the use of the natural assets going to add value? That's the ultimate question So we have with
That's the ultimate question. That was a word from Prime Minister Dr. Andrew Holness. What's your response, Dr. Taylor?
Well, listen, it's not that, the regulator cannot function from the OPN, right? The real question is that can it function without fear, without interference, and without political instruction? And the answer is seen reversal of NEPA's decision in 2020 when we look at development that's supposed to happen in Dry Harbor Mountain, that NEPA was overruled by the PM, right? And then this thing had eventually the environmental amendment win. But we see when things are in the same, the minister will have direct power over what happens to our environment. I'm saying, why do we have an environmental ministry without any power at all? It does not allow for independence. It does not allow for oversight. It does not allow for real good governance. And this is the issue that we're having. If the Prime Minister, want to fast track things to the detriment of the environment, should not be allowed in any country, right? I've not seen any country where an environmental ministry is devoid of its regulatory power. This is something that you cannot allow. And we have seen too many hotels being built on our beaches. We're seeing too many development on our watersheds. And all of these things are happening because you have the development agency and the environmental regulator being one and the same. And the Prime Minister is arguing for a continuation of this. This is colonial logic. This is how we see degradation, sidelining of community.
Dr. Taylor, you're breaking up. You said it was colonial logic and what?
It's colonial logic, right? This is where you have degradation of our environment and the displacement of our people from consultation when we're dealing with serious environmental matters. And this is nowhere on planet Earth you have an environmental ministry without the core regulatory power.
Let me just quickly run you through a hypothetical here, Dr. Taylor, before we go. If the Forestry Department, which is under the ministry headed by Minister Matthew Samuda, identifies a hillside as a critical protection zone, but NEPA, which is under the OPM, grants a permit for the massive hotel on the same hillside, who wins?
The environmental lose. The environment lose. Remember, the environment is very important for the survival of our country. The beauty of Jamaica is the beauty of its environment. This is why it's written in the Constitution about the right to a healthy ecological heritage of the country. If we don't preserve this, for this generation, have no environment at all. We was created, including climate change. We see what Melissa to the coastline and to the country. So we stronger environmental regulation, and this cannot be coupled with infrastructural development.
I think
they must be separate.
I think that is the central point of not only JABEM's position, but you explaining to us, Dr. Devon Taylor, why you have taken such umbrage with the position continuing from 2025 after the creation of this ministry without NEPA. Dr. Devon Taylor, thank you so much for joining us inside Lead Story.
Thank you.
We're taking a break and coming back to you. We're going to look at the environment next. Does it understand different ministries when you're trying to protect it? We'll deep dive into that next inside Lead Story.
Top Tier. For premium liquor, exclusive wines and beverages, Top Tier Liquor Store has the best brands at the lowest prices. Cash or consignment, wholesale or retail. We'll even provide a top tier event venue right in the heart of Crossroads. Visit us today at 1A Caledonia Avenue, Kingston, or give us a call at 876-505-1697. top-tier liquor store. Sip superior. Shop top tier.
Jamaica's unemployment rate has fallen to 3.3%, down from 13.2% in 2016. Our government's continued focus on job creation is delivering real results. We are building Jamaica. The time by the Office of the Prime Minister is...
Let's delve deep into the issues. We'll take you beneath the surface.
Greetings and salutations. My name is Orville Higgins and it's another edition of Fan Central.
Talking to the people at the heart of the top sporting stories. Hear from your favorite sportsmen and women and the administrators who work tirelessly to make it all happen. It's live sports talk.
I've written an entire article.
Yeah.
Looking at all the major issues every Tuesday at 9 p.m. It's Fan Central.
We've examined the allegation, we've heard the institutional concern, but beyond statute and portfolio responsibility, there is a scientific question. If environmental authority is fragmented, what happens ecologically? Damien White is a biologist joining us today. Mr. White, thanks for joining us inside Lead Story.
Greetings. Always happy to come and talk about the environment in any way I can.
You are certainly known nationally for being the person who is always happy to talk about the environment. Talk to us from a biological standpoint. How critical is regulatory consistency in protecting coastal and marine ecosystems? Does the ecosystem understand different ministries and disjointed approaches to putting things together to protect it?
No, the ecosystem does not understand the disjointed part in protecting it. I would just make it stated simply. The ecosystem just wants to be protected. So when we are disjointed and fragmented, very problematic. It's part of ourselves in protecting the ecosystem.
I think that's going to be a crucial underpinning of the conversation we're having now in the broader context of the Natural Environment and Planning Agent, or the National Environment and Planning Agency under one ministry, while the Environmental Ministry, headed by Minister Matthew Samuda, has other areas under it, including the Forest Department and the Water Resources Authority. But when we're looking at environmental permits, Damien White, and permitting, the decisions are delayed, fragmented, or influenced by non-scientific considerations. What are some of the consequences we can see in our environment as a result of that?
Well, in the environment, a lot of this, I would say, where you can do can I construct in a marine environment? The choice that you choose to put up a development by science, you're less likely to be in problems. When the science is absent, then you could put in something that have detrimental impact on us, and then people might be asking question, why did we do here that is going to be flooded? Why are we doing this development in an area that only few special species live? And that's why you always need the science part of it to take out the people. One of the reasons why this is permitted is because somebody have a friend or money was involved. So when you have the science behind it, it protects you. It also protects the environment. And just putting out the information on the process where everybody can follow and see how we reach here would solve a lot of our problems.
information then, greater information helps us to make better decisions. Help us all then understand the concept of something called cumulative impact. That is, if multiple developments are approved incrementally, one by one here, but we're not looking at how they work together or don't work together, how does that affect coral reefs, mangroves, and fisheries over time?
Okay, so when you're doing a development, and sometime maybe in the past what happened is that you might have an individual, if you have an area where you're having a development, everybody might go out there and do their environmental impact. So we want to have an impact on this area and this one. But when you put all of it together, and that's why everybody talk about the cumulative impact. Now you put development A plus development B plus, you look at the overall having that environment and about the coral reefs. If we have in an area where everybody's clearing the vegetation, maybe to put in housing development measure is not put in, you might have a rain event and you have so much of that runoff that might go into, come out, and then some of your corals might be impacted by, the water again, or might be wiped, the limestone, and all of that would smother and impact on your coral reef and might even impact. So when you're doing a development, and that's why you need strong regulatory body there to just, have an overall plan maybe for the next 5 years and see when we make it in this area, what you will have. Important, if we get it wrong, of the information that we put out there will be wrong. For example, right now in Kingston, we need to update the drainage because for the water to go in. So from time to time you get flooding. So this is why a cumulative impact is so important, and that one is important in it.
So we continue to have this conversation with you, Damian White, as you talk to us about this. And we apologize to our viewers at home. There is some interruption as we speak with Damian White, but we really want to be consistent in speaking with a biologist about what has taken place there, helping us better understand why information makes the difference. Damian explaining to us having an environmental impact assessment about one thing plus another thing plus another development might make them all look good, but putting it together is going to be the real picture. Of course, it's going to tell the real tale. With that said, we're now having something that has come into the public domain, a discussion about how we have set up our environmental agency with the newly created agency that we have here, the Ministry of Water, Environment and Climate Change, having the Forestry Department under its control, the Water Resources Authority under its control, the Met Service under its control, but the regulator is not under the control of Minister Matthew Samuda. It instead lays elsewhere. And we just spoke with Jabem and Dr. Devon Taylor a moment ago, who said that is not practical. Given what you said about environmental impact assessments needing to tell a full picture and having a plan for an area, Damian White, is this feasible? That is, that the plan for the area is in one ministry, that Ministry of Water, Environment and Climate Change, but the actual regulation of it is in an entirely different ministry with an entirely different focus. That's a ministry under the Office of the Prime Minister.
Well, I would start off and saying that in that discussion, and I start off with option one. What is the mandate of NEPA? NEPA, I'm a strong advocate for them to also deal with planning. And planning, so you can look at it this way, that the NEPA could be strategically in the right overall decision ministry making. Are you looking at?
Oh, Damian White, you're breaking up. You're breaking up as you speak to us, and we seem to be missing the key words that allow us to pull together what you're saying. So NEPA, you're saying, could stay under OPN?
Yeah, I think you're breaking up now.
Yes. what were we saying? That NEPA could stay under OPM if we had a good organized plan?
Well, I was saying that 2 models for it to work.
Okay.
To put, but we're breaking up. I was making the point that whether it in NEPA was already by the ministry, and we can look at what being under the ministry. So look at it now and see what major changes. Regards to it, whether NEPA is with under the Ministry of Environment or whether under the OPM, it's just a movement of place. Governance issues. We just want to make sure gets the right fund to operate. So when we, in terms of operate, sure certain decision going on. Why do I to? Can they be funded in money for their enforcement? So if you just look at it, you can state that it should be where. But if you put it in, when it comes to the over decision where other ministries are going to make planning decision, the environment.
All right. Damian White.
And there's so much red tape.
I think that it's important that you, Damian White, we're breaking up with you as you're talking to us, and it is not as glorious an experience as we would want it to be, as you're explaining to us about environmental design and what it could look like to have this sort of elimination of bureaucracy, but also a cooperative government where all the different pieces are working for the benefit of the environment. Just before you go, Damian White, if we can hear us, it's going to have to be brief because we keep having those interruptions as you speak to us here. What does strong environmental protection look like?
Strong environmental protection, putting the information out to the people so they can understand the process of how we make our decision. Why do we need to protect? How come and make this development? Put the information in the process. 2, and follow the rule, whether the rule is for all of us. To see the agents really out there doing work. So I think that's one of the messages that we need for the environment. Tell us how you get to certain decision, show us the process, and if anybody do something wrong, whether you're the small or the big man, you face that same consequences with the enforcement.
I think that's so important, Damian White, because the National Environment and Planning Agency speaks of itself in its mandate as Jamaica's lead agency for environmental protection, natural resource management, land use and spatial planning. And you're saying tell people about why protecting the environment is important and make sure that big or small, everybody feels the responsibility that they have. And if you don't hear, you will feel the consequences of a strong environmental governance. Damian White, biologist, and clearly a man passionate about the environment and able to explain it to us. Thank you so very much for joining us inside Lead Story. We're going to take a break and come back to you. First, moving away from the environment, and second, talking about finances. I know, a bit of a switch, but we're talking about the asset tax next, making sure that you understand that whether it's a physical ecosystem or a financial ecosystem, we stay informed and aware. We'll talk about that next here inside Lead Story.
Food always tastes to savor. Giving you the best, giving you the flavor. Nice enough the kitchens all across Jamaica. Happy smile when you see the price you pay for. Corned beef and the sausage. New pack. Ketchup and the pepper sauce. New pack. Beans and the baked meat. New pack. Rice. New pack. Oil. New pack. Yes, new Packed foods always pays to savor. Giving you the best, giving you the flavor. Icing up the kitchens all across Jamaica. Happy smile when you see the price you pay for. You pack more than just value.
Every dream conquered is another dream game. I land and I fly again like a jet plane. Headed straight in your direction. 'Cause I'm wiser, one step closer. I'm winning 'cause I work so hard. And the music is a play, and the people them I say we are my show tonight. Oh, what a feeling! Don't stop dreaming. Keep on believing in the power of the feeling. Whatever you want, take a chance. Song in your heart, step in your dance. You got a spark, don't fit it down. Shine your lights
Jamaica, make we do the right thing. Make we live good today for a better tomorrow. Talk it out, don't fight it out. The time by the Ministry of National Security is
6:30.
We're now moving from Environmental Authority to Fiscal Authority. The asset tax remains in place, and that's despite previous signals of phase out. As Jamaica navigates post-Hurricane Melissa reconstruction, pressures mean that revenue measures now include the asset tax, increases to the sugary beverage levies, and cigarette excise adjustments. We have in studio with us Julian Morrison, Head of Investments at NovaMed, to talk to us all about what is happening and to help us figure out what exactly this means for us all. Mr. Morrison, welcome to Lead Story.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Thanks so much for joining us. Now, the government had previously signaled a phase out of the asset tax. Does retaining it now undermine policy credibility?
No, because Hurricane Melissa is a tail event. And when you are doing forecasting, you can't reasonably forecast for tail events, which means that when you have acts of God, you have to make the necessary adjustments. So even though one would have had baseline expectations, things that happen outside of the norm would necessarily cause anyone who is prudent to go back to the drawing board. So I wouldn't say that the credibility is negatively affected.
You wouldn't say credibility is negatively affected, but there are some financial institutions that have said that they are going to be impacted by this. Technically, how does the asset tax affect financial institutions' balance sheets? Because it's meant for financial institutions, yes?
Sure. So pretty much financial institutions have to pay the same taxes that non-financial institutions have to pay, regular corporate income tax. But on top of that, they have to pay an asset tax, which means that it's a taxation that is on top of what would normally be there. So it's based on assets and not profits. So if you have a bad financial year in terms of your P&L, your profit and loss, you still have to pay that asset tax. And that's a part of the challenge. Now, what the asset tax does is that it gives financial institutions more work to do in terms of generating returns for shareholders, because it means, again, instead of just paying your regular bills, your salaries, your utilities, you have to then not only pay corporate income tax, you have to pay the asset tax on top of that. And what that means is that customers feel it. So fees, for example, fees on services.
Banking fees?
Banking
oy,
fees.
Oy, oy.
Yes, definitely. Fees on other services.
Mortgage rates?
Mortgage rates,
interest
most definitely.
on small business loans?
Yes, all kind of loans, not just small business loans. So if you think about it, the cost of capital to small businesses is adversely impacted by the asset tax.
So this asset tax is for businesses, for financial institutions as they are doing their work. And we have had some financial institutions, including some of the largest, come out and say they would be impacted by this. But Hurricane Melissa has left a US $8.8 billion hole in our GDP.
Right.
Is the reintroduction of this tax a temporary emergency measure, or is it a structural shift back to what some had said, the days of having high taxes and the days of going back to the dark old days of Jamaican high fiscalism?
I think it's somewhere in the middle. I think where Jamaica is in a very sensitive position. We now have policy credibility that we haven't enjoyed in the last 35 years, which is pretty much my entire lifetime. So we have to maintain that. We have a BB minus credit rating that is unheard of pretty much.
So this is from Fitch, Standard & Poor, S&P, global credit rating agencies.
Right.
Those are the ones that you're saying are looking at Jamaica positively and saying you've done what you said you would do.
Yes.
We believe that you will do what you will do, and you won't put yourself back in the dark days of exorbitant borrowing in order to get back on track?
Yes, because what it means is that a credit rating is a financial report card, and the better your grades, it means that you can borrow more cheaply. So if Jamaica has a better credit rating, it means that the country itself can borrow at lower rates, and that will augur well for our accounts. It means that we will have to pay less taxes in the future. It means that we will have more flexibility to do infrastructure investment, improve our hospitals, our roads, etc. So it's always a balancing act, and everything is interconnected. So I do believe that it is not an ideal situation to be in, but the asset tax is a balancing act. On one hand, it has restraints on the private sector, but on the other hand, we have to ensure that the budget can support the recovery that Jamaica needs. Because if we don't finance this gap, then it also has additional costs to the country long term.
Well, let's talk about that gap and some of the concerns that have been raised about it, because the government says Hurricane Melissa forced their hand. But by keeping the asset tax, we're effectively taxing recovery. Those same businesses that you want to expand, to grow, to take on loans are now saying, I can't afford to do that. So if you're saying that it's more expensive for banks to lend money to the small and medium enterprise that are trying to rebuild, what then of this rebuild? If the people you're hoping for good things from don't have the money and don't have the access to the bank loans, what exactly is the purpose of this asset tax? It looks like it's carrying the country in the opposite direction.
Well, again, it's a balancing act. So think about it.
What's the balance, Julian?
Right, I'm going to stop talking about finance for a little bit to make it more palatable. So let's say you have a patient that just comes into the emergency room and they are pretty much in critical condition. The first thing you have to do is stop the bleed. You can't always do everything at once. You can't stop the pain. You can't do all of that at the same time. The first thing you have to do is stop the bleed. So pretty much, the rollout has to happen in a multi-phase approach. And the first phase is to take decisions that are less than ideal. So ideally, we would want a lower asset tax. Let's just make that clear. Because we would
want to allow it or get rid of it?
We would want to eventually move to the point where it's totally removed.
That is what was promised to many of these financial institutions. That is what they would have put on their books. That is what they would have now been disappointed to hear, that the government has moved away from that promise, saying that the asset tax would be removed. Is there any way then what we can see for the next maybe 5 years as we continue to rebuild after Hurricane Melissa, that the asset tax could reasonably be removed? Because there are lots of downstream impacts of the asset tax. Lower bank retained earnings. Banks are just going to have to pay the tax. Potential lending constraints. And then small and medium enterprises and mortgage borrowers are just going to decide that this is not feasible for them, meaning that less homes are going to be owned by Jamaicans. None of this looks like the balance you're talking about. All of it just looks bad, Julian Morrison.
Well, I wouldn't say that. I mean, you mentioned that the financial institutions have to pay and the customers have to pay. Well, as a part of the tax regime we're entering now, because of the less than ideal circumstances, we now have to pay more for alcoholic drinks. We have to pay more on sugary drinks. So if you went to drinks on a Friday evening with your friends, you'd have to pay more. And it's not something that anyone would want for the country, because again, that can have challenges for growth. But the fact of the matter is, if we don't finance the recovery through these tax measures, it means that Jamaica will take longer to get to where it was pre-storm. So let's put something into context. Jamaica's debt to GDP in 2025, right before the storm hit, it was below 70%. In 2013, it was closer to 140, which means that our debt to GDP was reduced by a half.
We owed more money than we were bringing in, and that is in a household where you have a light bill and water bill, that is more money than you bring in for the day. That's stressful. We're now at a less stressful position where we can cover our bills with the amount of money that we make. That's a better position. But you're also talking to us about taxing us about it, and with the taxes expected to be around $26 billion, 26.4 billion Jamaican dollars this this year, thanks to that sugary drink tax and the extra money on cigarettes and the environmental levy and the asset tax. That doesn't look like it covers the $8.8 trillion gap that we have in our budget. You're saying that we need to do this to finance recovery, but this isn't enough money to finance recovery.
Well, not all at once, which is why we mentioned the phase. So we mentioned the patient in the emergency room. You start the bleed first, then you move to the next phase of treatment. So the country has to be seen as a patient in the emergency room in the point that we have to take it in phases. So IMF has mentioned that we're not going to go back to where we were in terms of debt to GDP, which is below 70%. Pre-storm, we're not going to get back there until 2035.
So 10 years it takes us to recover from a storm, and that is one hurricane. Melissa, we had Hurricane Beryl the year before. We are on a plate that might lead us to having earthquakes. We are environmentally vulnerable and might have an earthquake, or rather a hurricane or two, or just rainfall that lasts for 4 weeks like we've seen in Octobers and Novembers here in this country. This is horrific.
Well, not horrific.
You've come with no good news, Julian Morrison.
Wait, so hold on. No. So I've mentioned that we have policy credibility. We never had that before. Jamaica has had the best financial report card that it has ever had, which is BB-. Remember, just 15 years ago.
And that is from our international credit rating agencies. The top three of them are Fitch, which is where we got the BB- rating recently.
S&P has the same rating as well.
Standard & Poor's has the same rating, and Moody's has held us firm even after the hurricane. That is, as I've said, you've been good even after environmental devastation in your country. You're still managing. But
which is
that is external to Jamaicans. Internally, Jamaicans can't afford business loans. Jamaicans can't afford mortgages. For all the dancing abroad that we'd want to be doing, you need to dance at a yard first, at home. What is it that is impressive about this for Jamaicans who are going to be seeing higher taxes on the drinks that they're already consuming, higher taxes on the cigarettes that they're already using, and a government that is expecting revenue to hold firm if they have expectations of 10.1 million on sugary drinks, or 1.1 billion on sugary drinks, 1.1 billion on cigarettes, 10.1 billion on sugary drinks. That seems like we are the only ones that are taking the brunt of all of this.
Well, let's take a step back. So we have one of two options because of the situation we're already in. This growth is going to take us a while to get back to where we were pre-storm, and we have two options. We're either going to borrow a lot more, or we're going to borrow a little more and also increase taxes in the interim. So taxes are not permanent. Taxes can be added, they can be removed. So it's an adjustment that can be made. And if we don't actually look at these measures, it means that we can set ourselves back in terms of our credit rating. So why am I talking about the financial report card, which is the credit rating? If it is that our financial report card gets worse, all the country pays because interest rates are going to get higher. What do I mean by that? If Jamaica's credit rating goes from BB to CC, it means that Bank of Jamaica will likely adjust its policy rate to a higher level. Jamaica itself has to borrow internationally for its funding. So what that means is to even fund a budget in the future, more of our revenues are going to go back to paying debt, and we don't want to go back there.
So quick question before we go, yes or no? Are we setting ourselves up now to be able to borrow with better terms in the future by doing this hard work now?
Yes.
Hey, there you go. See, that helps us then better understand why we have the taxes for Jamaican citizens now valuing $29.4 billion. And Julian Morrison has explained to us that awesome report card that we have from international credit rating agencies means that we'll get it a little less expensive in the future. Julian Morrison, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you
Inside Lead Story. I'm glad that we had a discussion on the asset tax. It's not for you. It's not like the sugary drink tax going directly to you, but it will, we hate this term here, trickle down to you. And so we're going to make sure that you understand what's going on. We'll take a break and come back to you talking about millions, $152 million made just yesterday thanks to Civic participation. You made it happen, and you didn't even have to receive an outside tax. We'll talk about that next, here inside Lead Story.
is back Sunday, March 8, 2026, Emancipation Park at 6:30 a.m. Over $2 million in cash and prizes. Go to www.runningeventsja.com to register by March 4, 2026.
Welcome to What a Guan. Now, What a Guan is CVM TV's new Vox Pop program, Vibes Yes Vox Pop program. Hey Jamaica, you're watching What a Guan.
What a Guan.
Coming to you from Montego Bay. Hello, my people.
What a Guan is back. The People's Program is back in full force on CVM TV.
What a Guan. What a Guan. Boss.
Let's delve deep into the issues. We'll take you beneath the surface.
Greetings and salutations. My name is Orville Higgins, and it's another edition of Fan Central.
Talking to the people at the heart of the top sporting stories. Hear from your favorite sportsmen and women and the administrators who work tirelessly to make it all happen. It's live sports talk.
I've written an entire article.
Yeah.
Looking at all the major issues every Tuesday at 9 p.m. It's Fan Central.
The internationally acclaimed On Stage with Winfred Williams.
At a new time, Saturdays at 8 p.m. on CVM TV.
So much more than entertainment.
Approximately 30,000 participants. Approximately Jamaica $152 million raised. The Sagicor Sigma Run exceeded its target this year, supporting 5 Western schools affected by Hurricane Melissa. CVM was also a sponsor for the run for the Rest 5K. And to talk to us here inside Lead Story, we have Megan Edwards, Corporate Social Responsibility Officer at Sagicor Group Jamaica. Ms. Edwards, welcome to Lead Story.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for joining us. I and 30,000 plus others went out yesterday to run for the West. My thighs hurt, my glutes hurt, but I went out there to support Jamaicans. You raised $152 million Jamaican dollars in a single day. What does that tell you about public trust and the name that Sagicor Sigma has in the Jamaican space?
It's actually not a single day. Right? So we started fundraising initiatives from December, and we have to thank all of our sponsors, donors, persons that registered for the event, because all of that helped make up the $152 million.
But yesterday is when you made the big announcement on stages, telling us how much was your goal?
$150 million.
So you beat it by $2 million.
Don't worry about that. We still
you beat it though.
We still beat it. Yes.
But $150 million is a lot of money.
Yes, it is.
Where specifically will this year's funds then be allocated with your $150 million plus $2 million extra that you were able to pull together, doing work from December, but making the grand announcement yesterday that you were able to pull those funds in?
Okay, so the funds will be used to help rebuild 5 schools in the West, right? So we have Saltmarsh Infant and Primary, Mayfield Infant and Primary, Hopewell High, Green Pond High, Little London High. And those 5 schools will receive, we will help them repair the roofs, purchase windows, electrical circuits, furniture, anything that is required to help make these students come back to school in a safe and learning environment. That's the aim, that's the goal. Once again, we have to thank all of Jamaica for helping us reach this target, exceed our target.
Exceed your target, and $150 million, that's a lot of money. Do you believe that those 5 schools will be able to go back up and running thanks to the work of Sagicor, or do we still need some more support?
I think that all of the schools in the West, not just these 5, will need some more support from Jamaica. and the diaspora. But I think that this is a start to get these students back into school, because some of them are going to school in tents, some of them have to be like on rotation basis. But I think it is a very good start, and looking forward to helping these students, these 3,000 plus students.
Important to note then that we have those children under 10 stories that we've had here inside CVM and inside Lead Story. We've been on the ground at some of these institutions, and we have seen what it is that's going on there. But in a strained fiscal environment, because we did talk about taxes before you came, and we talked about how Hurricane Melissa has changed everything. In that environment, does philanthropy now supplement the public purse? Do people now come out and feel themselves being part of a committed goal to rebuild and to give back?
Yes, because you don't really know what's in people's pockets, right? So what they say, every mickle make a muckle. Correct. So if some persons will say we could donate $2,800, which is the registration fee, or they have some corporate entities that registered large corporate teams, so every dollar counts. So yes, we feel the urge, the need to really give back even more.
You feel the urge to give back even more. So how are you giving back then? How are you doing this sort of support, and who else are you supporting along the way?
How are we doing this? By, as we said, raising the funds to help with the 5 schools. This is a start. We also mentioned in December how we gave back $100 million to help polyclinics, right? So it is a really good initiative. This is the time now for us to really, really go back to our roots, know that this is Jamaica. We really need to help rebuild the Western, so that Jamaica on a whole can, flourish and get back to where we were prior to Melissa.
$152 million raised.
Yes.
I said over 30,000 people were on the road. If I guessed 100,000, I don't think I would have been off either. At final count, how many people showed up on race day to be part of this, to show not only that their funds in support and donation mattered, but on the day, as part of a 5K run, that they also wanted to be a little healthier and to get their steps in?
Yes.
What's your total number there that you had for people who showed up on the day? 31,000 people. So more than the 30,000 participants, you had 31,000 people there participating in this event. Help us understand then where we go from here. How do you ensure transparency in distribution, making sure that people now confidently say, yes, I'm coming to this one, I'm going to the next one, because Sagicor Sigma has done all they need to do to make sure that these funds get to where they're most needed?
Well, what we do is all of the funds raised goes directly to the beneficiaries. Once the project has been completed, we always ensure that we do handover ceremonies. So that way we remain transparent, that way everyone knows this is where your money is actually going, and then it will encourage persons to come and support again next year, because they know that their money is actually going towards the cause.
Somebody watching right now, Megan, says, oh my goodness, I forgot about the race. How can I continue to give? How can I help Sagicor Sigma and help these 5 schools that you have there, as you did the run for the West yesterday? But I want to give some more, or I want to give now that I might not have known that giving before was a possibility.
Yes, we have multiple ways to donate. So you can donate via check to Sagicor Foundation Jamaica. They can donate via our website, sagicorsigmarun.com, and just select the donation tab. If you're from the diaspora, you can donate via Food for the Poor Canada and American Friends of Jamaica. We also accept direct transfers, or if you feel the need, you can visit us at our Sigma Secretariat in our Danny Williams building and swipe your card, or pay by cash.
Oh, so she has given you every single possible way to give money. At this point in time, I think the only thing she hasn't mentioned is like they take Bitcoin or crypto, but I'm sure if you have a transfer you're willing to put in place, they're willing to work with you on that. Anything else that you want to talk to us about before we close in this conversation about this amazing civic participation drive? Because people put themselves out and they gave money even without being taxed. They gave you money because they trusted you, they trusted your name, and they said they wanted to give to Hurricane Melissa victims and for the rebuilding of the West. Anything else you want to say to people as they watch the work that you do and want to continue to support the work that's being done there at the Sagicor Foundation?
Yes, so everyone can follow us on our Instagram pages. So we have Sagicor Foundation JA And there's also Sagicor JA. Then there's our Facebook page, Sagicor Foundation, Jamaica. And you can also visit our website, sagicorsigmarun.com, to follow us, to learn more, to follow us, to stay up to date, everything.
And they're likely to have a run next year.
Yes.
As you tend to have runs, you're likely to have another group of individuals benefiting from the work that you do. You're going to likely set another ambitious target. You're likely going to beat the ambitious target. And since this year is your 29th year,
this year was the 28th.
This is your 28th year, so
yes.
next year is the 29th year.
Yes.
So I was there the 25th year, and I have special shirts. I was there before that. 29th year, getting close to like big celebrations of 30th year. So we're looking forward to the continued work of the Sagicor Foundation. And they're recently held, and by recent I mean yesterday, because my thighs still hurt. So yesterday, their 5K run. Megan Edwards, thank you so very much for joining us inside Lead Story. Our absolute pleasure. Now, institutional design is not administrative trivia. It's a blueprint of our policy and our survival. If we are seeing policy leadership separated from regulatory authority, and we had that conversation first about NEPA tonight, then accountability must be crystal clear, because environmental governance isn't just about the trees and the water. It's about our beaches, our tourism, and the livelihoods of every Jamaican who calls this coastline home. Likewise, if fiscal commitments shift under the pressure of a storm, and sometimes it does have to, the reality is the reality, credibility must be rebuilt. Fiscal policy affects more than just a budget. It affects your lending rates, your mortgages, and the creation of the next great Jamaican job. And finally, we just saw that when public finances tighten, civic trust becomes our national capital. The Sigma Run reminds us that Jamaicans will always step forward, but only when our institutions command confidence. Authority, therefore, must be transparent. Policy must be predictable. Trust must be earned. That is a story. I'm Jody Ann Quarry, and on behalf of the